Oda has introduced a character who might be Luffy's biggest challenge yet, a lurking legend whose existence could spell the beginning of the end for the One Piece world. Right now, most people aren't paying enough attention to Elbaf. The world believes the final war will be a battle between pirates, marines, and revolutionaries, but it seems like the true start of Ragnarok is right in front of us, represented by a familiar face and the title of Sun God. But there's something different about Loki. Unlike others who have claimed to be gods in One Piece, I actually believe Loki is the real deal. This chapter is called The Cursed Prince, referring to Loki, who we'll see is very cursed. It gets pretty dark as the story goes on. Last chapter ended with the crew escaping from the Truman Show-like Lego world that Road built. We saw Luffy reacting to what he saw after breaking the wall, but not the actual site itself. As we dive deeper into the chapter, we also get a clearer look at Elbaf, and the landscape is stunning. This might be Oda's finest work when it comes to locations. It reminds me of Wano when we first saw the landscape, which Oda has said is his favorite drawing in One Piece. Elbaf's scale is massive, and I'm already feeling like we'll spend a lot of time exploring it, similar to how we spent for years on Wano. Everything is oversized in the kingdom of Elbaf, making Nami dizzy. Suddenly, they see two figures crossing the bridge toward the castle. The two are Goldberg and Gerd, members of the new giant warrior pirates, a crew led by Hiruden. Gerd raises a good question. Why did Hiruden allow such a weirdo like Road in the crew? Goldberg explains it's because Road has serious navigation skills. Gerd then says she hates him and thinks he's even more of a disgrace to Elbaf than Loki. This hints at Loki's bad reputation. As we'll see, it's tough to be more of a disgrace than him. Gerd mentions that if Road is kidnapping someone, she report it to Yorl, the old giant from Big Mom's past. Yorl is still around, which is surprising considering his age for 108 years old. It's interesting to see him still being respected, especially after Big Mom ended his co-captain's career years ago. The Straw Hats run across the giant bridge while hiding from Goldberg and Gerd, who knock on the castle door. Below the bridge is a forest full of giant wolves, making their situation even more dangerous. Luffy suddenly stops and says he's been feeling it since they were inside the Lego Kingdom. Zoro and Sanji must have felt it too. Luffy calls it the scream of a powerful man. It's a big deal, especially at Luffy's current strength level. While Usopp would avoid it, Luffy being Luffy wants to check it out. Sanji volunteers to stay back with the group, joking that Zoro would get lost in the forest. Luffy then jumps off the bridge and into the forest alone. It may not be the smartest move, but Luffy's confidence makes sense after beating the world government and some elders. Then we shift on the Elbaf ship. Frankie tells the giants they've done all they can to find Luffy and the others and suggests stopping the search. Jinbei even had sharks searching nearby seas, but found nothing. Their best option now is to trust their Nakama and wait at Elbaf. The giants agree, and the ship continues its journey. Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji are missing, and the story always emphasizes trusting your crew just like Luffy did at Wano when fighting Kaido. They also receive new bounties. The newspaper spins the story to say the giant pirates attacked Egghead Island. Bragi hilariously points out that he can't read because the text is too small. Robin reads that both captains of the giant warrior pirates, Bragi and Dory, now have 1.8 billion berries on their heads, a combined 3.6 billion. Then the news falsely claims that Luffy killed Vegapunk, and there's a huge picture of Luffy in his Gear 5 form. Unfortunately, we're starting to see in this chapter with some bad news, though it was pretty predictable. I've lost count of how many times I said the world government would blame Vegapunk's death on Luffy. However, they didn't do it alone. This whole mess is because Big News Morgans already decided Luffy was going to be the villain long before the Egghead Siege even started. Morgans is spinning the story to make it compelling, and honestly, it would be pretty boring if the truth got out and the whole world just supported Luffy. We've seen a similar situation before when Morgans accused Sabo of killing Cobra during the Reverie incident. so he's clearly on a slander spree with the brothers. It's also funny how Morgans chose a picture of Luffy looking so happy for an article accusing him of killing Vegapunk. Luffy's face isn't even the main focus of the picture. It's just a weirdly joyful photo for such a grim topic. Another curious detail is that Gear 5th Luffy has an X on his arm, which threw me off at first. I thought I was missing something, like maybe Oda had been hiding this all along, similar to how Emeth had an X on his arm in the Joy Boy flashback. But no, this seems to be Vivi's doing. Big News Morgans is in charge of publishing these papers, and I think Vivi either convinced him to print this photo with an added X, or she snuck it in herself without his knowledge. This might be Vivi's way of sending a message to the Straw Hats, letting them know she's alive and even hinting at how to find her. If the Straw Hats do the math, all they need to do is track down Morgans. This also ties into why Oda chose the original 6 Straw Hats to be kidnapped, because the remaining Strawheads who see this news wouldn't understand the significance of the Mark of Fellowship. But once one of the original 6 sees it, they'll piece it together, and I believe we'll head out to retrieve Vivi soon. It's a clever move on her part, likely inspired by Luffy's own trick when he had the 3D to Y message on his arm. Vivi was there when that happened, so she would have understood what Luffy's was communicating. Now, back to Loki. His design is intense, maybe even one of the best we've seen in this series. He's a mix of all the villains we've faced. There's a bit of Doflamingo in his twisted smile, the raw power of Kaido, and something about his face even reminds me of Django. This is why I think Loki could be the major antagonist of this arc. His backstory is also chilling. He killed his father for the sake of a devil fruit, which echoes Blackbeard's story. Oda has a tough challenge post-Wano, as it's hard to make any villain seem like a threat after Luffy's Gear 5th, but with just one panel of Loki, I already feel like this is a battle Luffy might not be ready for. Loki's grin, even in chains, makes him seem like a terrifying opponent, and what's even scarier is that he also calls himself the Sun God. There's a sense that Loki could rival Luffy's ambition, making him the greatest challenge Luffy has ever faced. And if Elbaf is going to be an arc, Loki will need to be a formidable foe, especially after we just faced the 5 Elders. Elbaf is shown in all its glory, a land of warriors with a massive tree, Yggdrasil, at its center, which dwarfs everything around it. The arc sets Loki up as one of the strongest villains we've seen, and it's clear an epic battle is coming.